everyone, and welcome back to Trading Secrets. Today, as you've probably guessed from the title, I will be trading secrets with you about unicorns. This video is the first in my new mini-series in between proper videos called What Even Is? In this segment, I'll talk about either a concept, an object, a food, or anything really that has become an everyday thing in the 21st century but finds its origin in India. Now, that does not mean that said object or concept was necessarily invented in India or that India gets full credit for its existence in every case, but somewhere in the past, India was involved in its conception. And I'm sure right about now you're thinking, so what does such an obviously Europeanish creature like the unicorn have to do with India? Well, buckle in. The year is... Actually, scratch that. We have no idea what exactly year it was, but the century is 4th BCE. Ctesias, a Greek physician in the Persian court, is talking to either Indian travelers or people who have been to India. He trusts them to be reliable sources. They tell him about this outer world known as India, where there is no dearth of fantastical beasts and odd creatures. Ctesias gathers all this information and writes a monograph called Indica. In this, he talks about elephants and parrots, and quickly goes into saying that India has dogs as big as lions and can imitate the voice of humans. He calls them Krokattas. Then come the Cynocephali, or dog-headed people, followed by the Martichoras, an animal with the head of a human, the body of a lion, and a spiky tail. Oh, I'm not finished. We also have the monopods, dwarf-like short people with only 1 foot, but said foot still allowed them to leap from place to place and also provide shade during a particularly scorching day. And finally, we have a wild ass-like creature with a body similar to that of a horse, a crimson head, blue eyes, and 1 horn, which was small and dark. This horn could be crushed and used as an antidote to poison or used against epileptic fits. Does this already sound a bit familiar? These creatures, as reported by Ctesias, went into accepted knowledge. After all, how could it not? Going to India and checking whether they existed wasn't common practice at the time, and Ctesias was a well-respected physician, so why would he make things up? Even Aristotle and Pliny the Elder both talked about the beasts mentioned by him. They pick up on the single horned Indian ass-like figure, which was untamable and an incredibly fierce animal. Aristotle wondered why some animals have 1 horn, why some have 2, and why some have none at all. And he also argued, was this single-horned animal any more absurd to imagine than an elephant or a giraffe? Or, speaking in the 19th century, any more absurd than a kangaroo or a platypus? Pliny is a lot more specific in his description. He describes it as having the body of a horse, the tail of a boar, it bellows with the head of a deer-type creature, and 1 single horn. Only this time, the horn is about 1.5 feet in length and multicolored. Looking back, what were these creatures that Ctesias was on about? Well, historians now believe that the Krokattas, the lion-sized dogs, may have been hyenae, and their human-like feature was their disturbingly creepy chuckle. The Cynocephali, or the dog-headed humans, were probably baboons, as their snouts resembled dogs. And Ctesias' Martichora, which found its way into medieval folklore as the manticore, may have actually been a tiger. So how does this ass-like creature become a unicorn? Ctesias most likely fused details of multiple creatures to create this fantastical being. We now believe he mixed up the descriptions of, some of you may have already guessed it, a rhinoceros, an oryx, and the Indian ass. But Ctesias never actually used the word unicorn, nor did he make it out to be a creature that was in any way magic or fantastical. All of that came later, through a tedious game of telephone. The Old Testament mentions an animal called reim. When the Bible was translated into Greek, they used the term monoceros in its place, which in Latin, of course, is a unicorn. The reim was later identified to actually be the Hebrew word for a now extinct species of oryx. But by then, the unicorn had become a part of Christian belief. Its healing qualities were compared to Jesus, and it became a symbol of purity and chastity. This magnificent beast could now only be tamed by a virgin. But some people still wanted proof. In 1486, a German priest who traveled to Jerusalem believed he spotted the creature on top of Mount Sinai. People were sent to different areas of the continent to find this creature and bring back its horns. And strangely, people did start selling unicorn horns in the 16th century, or unicorn horn dust in medieval ages. But of course, these weren't unicorn horns, but probably the horns of an oryx or just any old deer. Eventually, even the Arctic was roped into the myth of the unicorn, as cunning traders started hunting narwhals to sell their tusks at European markets as authentic unicorn horns. This commercialization of the unicorn resulted in the church of the time separating from its myth. And now in the 21st century, the unicorn is a cuddly animal that farts rainbows and is a child's plaything. It is also an indicator of a girl's innocence and naivety, but also joy and glee. But what makes people still believe that unicorns existed? I think the Indus seals are to be blamed. Depicting an Indian bull in its profile, and thus showing it with only one horn, has led a whole bunch of people to solidify their belief that unicorns most definitely existed. And because similar single-horned fantastical creatures also exist in several other cultures independently, such as in the Chinese and Japanese myths known as the Kirin or Kirin respectively, or in South American myths known as the Kamahueto, it just makes people want to go looking for them. And the narwhal adds to the mystery, because if something like that, a creature with a big horn-like thing coming out of its head, if that can exist, then why can't a unicorn? But alas, I do not believe that to be the case. But what remains true is that a single-horned animal with immense power does exist on this planet. And this is, and always will be, the Indian rhinoceros. Strange, isn't it? The creature that may have inspired the myth of this fantastical animal is now slowly nearing its end on this planet. I really hope the true unicorn doesn't actually become just a story. If you like this video, let me know in the comments below and share it with your friends if possible. And also, do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Bye bye!